Hello, everyone. Welcome to this pre-recording on composition. Let's jump into it. I'm just going to share my screen with you all. And I thought it'd be really interesting to investigate the topic of composition as it relates to art in order to help you get your images up to a really high standard. Okay, so we're going to step back a little bit, have a look at some of the basic rules of composition, rules in inverted commas. I want to keep things really simple for you. Now, I just thought I'd start. I don't like to rest on the idea that people are just born artists and they wake up in the morning and they make brilliant work. I think for the most part, that's nonsense. If you look at every great visual artist at their beginning stages, they stumbled, they made mistakes. Some learnt more quickly than others, but I think there is an enormous amount to be learnt by critically analysing and engaging your composition. So where you're getting things right and where it's going wrong. So art making is essentially a mark making tradition, and it all starts with these 5 marks. So moving clockwise here from the left, we have a point, we have a vertical line, a diagonal line, a horizontal line, and a curved line or an arc. Only 2 of these marks exist in nature, which are points and curved lines. Everything in nature is curved, but the straight lines are used by artists because it allows them to organize information in a really compelling way. We're hardwired to seek out patterns in our environment. So if you go for a walk by the park or a river, or you gaze upon someone's face and you see a straight line, your eyes are deceiving you. Okay, you've learnt to see them. They simply don't exist in nature. But as visual artists, these straight lines help us to organize information in a really compelling way. So we're going to be starting to look, we'll start by looking at the rule of thirds. I'm sure you've probably already heard of this. You might be aware of it, aware of the concept. If you're not aware of the rule of thirds, basically, if you assume this rectangle is your composition, you can divide your composition into vertical thirds and into horizontal thirds. And these 4 intersecting points here are called points of interest. So this is theoretically where you should be placing your subjects in order to give them emphasis. So an example. This is a very well-known photograph by Helen Levitt, who was a brilliant street photographer, one of the pioneers of color photography. And I want you all now just to consider, where is the area within the frame that commands your attention? Where do your eyes go? So if we divide this photograph into thirds, we'll notice that the area down the bottom left third, I think most of us will agree that this area over here is the most interesting or part of the image. And that falls on one of those intersecting points or points of interest. So in theory, if you place your subject matter, whatever that is, on any one of these 4 points, doesn't matter which one, you can create impact within your composition. The technique works very simply, but it's effective. And in teaching art and hearing the dialogue around the rules and conventions, people often say there's no rules in composition. You can do whatever you'd like. It doesn't really matter. All the rules are made to be broken. I personally try not to get too bogged down in the terminology. So we could call it a rule, we could call it a convention, we can call it a paradigm, we can call it a guideline. It doesn't really matter. If you do this, it will have an effect. So in my opinion, it's much better to understand the so-called rules and work with it or work against it. But more importantly, simply know it. this is another image. And again, I want you all to consider now, where does your eye go to in this composition? The orientation of the image is flipped. So now we're looking at a portrait image, but where does your eye go? So for me, yeah, I identify it to be this this fly in the top left-hand point of interest, and we can see that that sort of intersects pretty well. So this is not an accident. This artist, Wolfgang Tillmans, is aware of this, uses this technique time and time again, and it works very effectively. So this is another image. This time we have a painting, same principle. This time we have two subjects. We have these two figures down the bottom left point of interest and the plane in the top right point of interest. And it just works. It works really well. So the point is, if you do this to your own images, it's going to have an impact. You're going to see your images, whether that's paintings, drawings, photographs, etc. They're going to get better. They're going to get more interesting. Give it a go to your own work. We'll discuss this in more detail throughout the classes, but I'm hoping that is useful for you all. See you in class this week.